a compliment, right, Dust? 41 days until the draft. Geoff has updated his board with a surprise right at the top. I'm going to go through them, and then you're going to be the analyst. I'm going to act like kind of like I picked them, but I didn't. Okay. Switching spots with the Titans, the Giants, who take Cam Ward at 1. What do you like about Cam Ward with the Giants, Geoff?
The Giants are desperate for a quarterback. I got to go to Indianapolis this combine season, for the first time as like a regular person. I went there in 2008 to the combine. You hear whispers, you hear things, and the Giants desperately need a quarterback to save the coaches and the general manager. Right now, they have no one. Tommy DeVito is the only quarterback. As of right now, they have no one. And Cam Ward, I think, as a player, the Titans say, look, man, we'll give up for the 3rd pick and for more picks in given years, and we'll build our roster around other players for now, and we'll get a quarterback next season. And the Giants are desperate. They cannot leave. Imagine if they're sit at 3 right now. They don't get Aaron Rodgers. They don't get Russell Wilson. Who do they have at quarterback if it goes Ward and Sanders 1-2?
So I have a couple things.
Yeah.
One is, even if they get Aaron, this isn't happening. We would agree.
Yes.
I would think it could still happen even if they get Russell Wilson.
Yes.
That they could still draft their quarterback. And so you agree with me on that?
I think so. I think Wilson would do better with a sort of like a mentor than Aaron Rodgers would. He probably wouldn't like it. He wants to go be the starting quarterback. He went through that last year, obviously, with Fields. But I think with Wilson, you go get a quarterback. With Rodgers, you probably don't.
Okay, before you go, can I ask one more Cam Ward question? For a guy who watches as much college football as anyone in the world, for folks who didn't watch a ton of Miami or a ton of Cam Ward, are they going to be, I don't want to be too negative, but disappointed if their expectations are the traditional 1-1 quarterback? Because it feels like because of this class, this is a guy who could have gone 15th last year, who might be going first this year. Like, what would the Giants be getting?
I mean, I think if you were to big board these guys, Cam Ward's not one. We know that Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter is. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of growth. He has not played a ton of traditional quarterback, right? He was Incarnate Word. He was 2 years in the run and shoot at Washington State, and the last year was sort of the first year with a bunch of pro personnel around him and more of a pro offense. He makes great throws. It's making sure those decisions that he has where he makes the bad throws, where the footwork isn't great, which is a problem he had at Washington State, are taken out of his game. And I think Brian Daboll can get the best out of him just saying, hey, man, just take what's there and then use your athleticism when you have to.
Okay, next up, Browns coming in at 2. They also go QB.
Yes.
Shador going to Cleveland. We recently saw Flacco and a stout defense go to the playoffs. So do you think Shador can save the Browns, have some similar success?
I don't know what save means, but can I read you the starting quarterbacks for the last 2 years for Cleveland?
Sure.
Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston, P.J. Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, your guy Zappy, and Jeff Driscoll. They need a quarterback in the worst way. I mean, Sanders is not the second best player, just like Cam Ward is not the first best. But what are you going to do if you're Cleveland again? You're going to run back Kenny Pickett as your quarterback? But you have a decent roster. Are they going to accept another 4-win season because your quarterback isn't good enough? And I know Sanders, again, we talked about him yesterday, he might not be the best prospect, but again, they don't have a quarterback right now that can win them football games. What are they going to do? They're going to have to draft Sanders at 2, and there are things to work with. Accuracy's there, his toughness is there. Can you get him out of holding the ball and taking sacks? Look, Kevin O'Connell's offense, not Kevin O'Connell's, Stefanski. It's all the same offense.
Kevin Stefanski.
It's all the same offense. It's all the Shanahan offense. Those offenses have produced a ton of success and MVPs in the last 5 to 7 years. Like they are good offenses to play in. They have a decent offense line in Cleveland. They have some weapons there. He will get the most out of Sanders. They can't, again, just like the Giants, they can't leave without a quarterback after the end of April.
Yeah, and it's about time for Kevin Stefanski to win another Coach of the Year award that he shouldn't get over Andy Reid. This is, to me, very similar to the situation in the Aaron Rodgers draft, which is there are two kind of consensus first-round quarterbacks, and for either one of them, it probably would be Shador. If they don't hear their name called by the 3rd pick, it's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I think this is absolutely on the board, and I think that if the trade Geoff has hypothesized doesn't happen, it's on the board. He's taken at 3. But if Shador Sanders is not taken by the Titans, the Browns, or the Giants, I think we are getting into hours of the draft and into the 20s before his name is called. So that is, which again, while in the moment it sucks, and for your rookie contract it sucks, might actually be the best thing for him career-wise to end up at a better team or a more stable franchise. But the variance of this one is just massive for Shedeur.
Can I ask you about the stable franchise?
Yeah.
He had a quote out of the combine where it's like, I changed the culture at Jackson State. I went to Colorado. I changed the culture at Colorado. There's one narrative out there that is since he's already such a superstar. We were talking about New York. We were talking about Vegas. We were talking about kind of star cities.
Yeah.
I kind of like this.
Oh.
It reminds me of like Cleveland. Like, what are we gonna do? This thing is a disaster. And I can turn it around just like
that he gives them around. Which, by the way,
like the star power is part of the equation.
Baker did that.
Yes.
Baker, and I know it went sour on him, but Baker made them relevant and interesting or whatever. And it wasn't just because he played well; it was because he was a star college player.
Factor, yes.
Yeah, and so I agree. I also think that one of the reasons Shedeur gave that quote is because he wants to go in the top two, and Cleveland and Tennessee are teams that need, everything culture culture.
I like it. Yeah. All right, next up, Titans. Now you've got the Titans moving back to 3. They also are a little bit confusing at quarterback, but you've got them taking Penn State's Abdul Carter. So what do you like about Abdul Carter?
He's incredible. He's a good football player. I mean, the foot issue is a concern, I think, with the injury. Obviously, he didn't have surgery, but I think he'll be fine.
Was that with a mysterious injury popped up?
Yeah, it was around the combine, maybe a little bit beforehand. He's not having surgery, though. He's going to be fine. He's just an outstanding football player. And when you see guys come in the NFL that are polished pass rushers, they tend to be really good very fast. And he obviously reminds you of Parsons, a little different player, but he beat everyone this year. And he wins. I really like pass rushers that can win, like you see the highlights out, like 4-man rush, one-on-one can win now, because then you get in the NFL and you just hone that technique. A lot of times guys that show the physical gifts but don't actually win, those guys take longer to develop in the NFL, and they're very hit or miss. Guys that come in like this, the Bosa brothers have been this way, like they're so good with their hands already, they have their technique already, all they do is hone it in the NFL, and Tennessee gets the best player in the draft, potentially, if you might like Hunter Moore, at 3. I actually also think they'd be open to take phone calls for someone to come up and get Carter 2 or 3. I think they'd be okay trading back. They have a lot of holes in their team. Once you pass the quarterback at 1, just go start getting more draft picks.
So if they were, because I do think it's on the board that they trade out of 1, whether it's the Giants or the Giants probably the most likely. My only question is, the hell are they going to do at quarterback? Like
Marcus Mariota. I mean, someone for a year. Like they have a new GM now. Callahan probably doesn't want to have another bad season.
Right.
He might be out of a job, but he's not making the calls. The GM is. The GM is brand new. So this year for them is amassing talent. Next year's quarterback class should be better. Now, again, you don't want to be bad again, but the general manager has time to figure it out. Callahan doesn't. He might get fired if he's another bad season.
I am just surprised that they weren't the AFC South team that said, hey, Daniel Jones, come here. You know what I mean? That just as a placeholder, because right now they're in a spot where one of the reasons that I have just been kind of assigning them Cam Ward at 1 is because of their lack of activity, you know what I mean, in the quarterback market. But even if they were to take Cam Ward at 1, you would think they would want like maybe a veteran presence there. It's just a very interesting spot, and I agree with your point about Brian Callahan. The GM can be patient.
Correct.
Brian Callahan was kind of a surprising hire when they made it.
Yes.
That now when you, like, diehard football fans probably only have one Brian Callahan memory when it looked like he was going to beat up Will Levis, or at least attempt to, very early in the season.
Will Levis is killing him.
Right, Will Levis
there was some
tough.
One play a week that was the worst play in football.
And so the Titans are an interesting one. Go ahead.
All right, number 4, still my beating heart. Oh, what are we going to do at defense? What are we going to do at offense? You guys are in trouble, are we? Guess what? 2 for 1, Travis Hunter. If the Patriots end up taking Travis Hunter, what do you see the breakdown of offense to defense?
This was interesting, right? Because we just spent time talking about wide receiver for the Patriots. They have Gonzalez already, so you can make the case to put Gonzalez and Hunter together, and you have 2 great corners and sort of set on defense. And then, again, have that 10 or 12 play package for him on offense. But, they could view him as a wide receiver and just put him in their 1A and just let him,
Goodness gracious.
let him be your 1. It wouldn't surprise me here at 4 if they went offensive lineman, but Travis Hunter, he's really good. Like whenever you watch him play, go put on his highlights on YouTube. We're going to find them. When he catches that football, no one catches him in the football field. He was playing at a different speed than everyone else.
Yeah, it's like Reggie Bush-esque.
Yes.
So this, again, if Travis Hunter had announced, I am only playing, I'm going to do this with both positions, wide receiver, he would be around a what pick to you?
I think he would be the second wide receiver.
Okay. And if he said, I'm only playing corner?
Probably second corner.
Okay. So here's the reason.
Those both high.
Well, it's important to note that it is not, what I think some people are worried about is, am I getting a pretty good corner and a pretty good wide receiver, and you know what I mean, a guy who that is just not going to be elite at anything, but because he played so many snaps, that I agreed with your breakdown of it. I thought you might say cornerback 1 and wide receiver 2.
But here's the thing, if he played just corner and just focus all the attention on that every single game, maybe Will Johnson's just good at Michigan. It's not a slight on Travis. If Travis just played wide receiver, maybe again, the slim margin between him and McMillan, the wide receiver, is this, right? Him and Will. It's not like it's this big gulf between 1 and 2. But I think if he was just a corner, he would be.
But he still would be a consensus top half of the first round pick at just one position.
I think he'd be a top 7 player at either position.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were just talking in the break about sort of institutional memory of teams. Why I love Travis with the Patriots, and Coach Mangini talks about Troy Brown doing both. Edelman came in as a quarterback. It's like, no, actually, you know what? You're going to be a kick returner. It's like, why don't you also play offense? And like, by the way, we need you on defense a little bit. The idea of just taking a football player, do you like that idea for the Patriots, or just your overall drafting philosophy?
I like it, but the concern I have when you have someone like Travis Hunter is, again, it's a lot to digest to play 2 positions full-time. Kick returner and wide receiver, fine, right? But to play full-time corner and full-time, like you have a playbook. Like they're digital now, but I mean, they're this big, right? You have an entire offensive playbook, entire defensive playbook. I think it's easier to learn corner and play corner than give you a package of offensive plays rather than the other way around, where you practice wide receiver and go play corner. In Colorado, it appeared to me, watching their offense, that he did that. He played corner in practice because his route tree, where he lined up it did not vary very much. Now, the Colorado offense doesn't vary a lot anyways, but he basically just played on one side of the field for a game and ran his 3 or 4 routes. Very good, obviously. So I think that's what they did at Colorado, where he just played cornerback, but also then had a package of plays at wide receiver. It was remarkable what he did. I thought there was no chance he could play this many reps and be this good. Like it should happen.
Remarkable athlete.
It should not happen this way.
I just want to tell everybody, really to the producers, if this happens, remember our Super Bowl show? The amount of fanfare that I will be going nuts.
It'd be awesome.
Oh my goodness. No budget, Hub said.
He'd be the best offensive and defensive player on your sorry ass team.
Let's move on to number 5. Jacksonville heading to Arizona from jolly old London town to take Tet McMillan. What do you think about Tet teaming up with the Prince?
Yeah, this is, I think, a little bit off the board for some people, but you look at what Liam Cohen has to do is they have to get everything right for Trevor Lawrence, right, to evaluate him.
Well, sorry, Jeff. Editorial note. Resurrect?
Jeff's not in charge.
Resurrect
is too
strong.
Trevor Lawrence did not play well.
His body betrayed him, but listen, his last healthy season, he was out here with the 4th greatest playoff comeback ever. It's just that's what was happening. Go ahead. Sorry.
McMillan's really good. They could go offensive line here. They need a left tackle of the future because I don't think Walker Little's that guy. But I don't think they pass up a wide receiver here that can help out Trevor Lawrence. It's kind of that simple. Now, you can make the case that wide receiver in the 2nd round and offensive lineman now make more sense versus the other way around. Essentially, we take a wide receiver now and offensive lineman later based off the draft board. That doesn't matter for drafting, right? You have to look at the rest of the draft and where you can get guys. But I don't think they pass up opportunity here to take an incredible time. I mean, he's fantastic. I don't know if people watch Arizona football. They were not good last season. He's incredible. Is
there people love these, and they're usually very hard to do, so sorry to put you on the spot. Is there an NFL receiver, past or present, that he reminds you of?
I mean, Drake London's the guy everyone's going to turn to, right? He's bigger. He's a little bigger than him. I think he's straight line speed. He has not run a 40 yet, which people are waiting to see him in his pro day because there's some questions about how fast he really is. But when you watch him play right now, I mean, he's the only option they had at wide receiver last year was torching teams. He's a very good football player.
I mean, listen, if he is even close to the NFL player that is prospect, then Jacksonville does have their quarterback and their wide receiver set.
Yes.
Brian Thomas Jr. is awesome.
Yeah,
he'd be great.
And they're two different wide receivers too, so you have two different options on where to throw the ball.
You're pretty good.
Yeah, you're good.
Mac Jones
right
made
back
Brian Thomas Jr. good.
What? Huh?
Mac Jones made him good. Your guy couldn't get him the ball.
Once a show.
Mac
there you
was
go.
Looking good. All right, rounding out the next 5, Will Campbell, who might also go to the Patriots. I was worried about his small arms. You said don't worry about it because he can punch.
Yes.
And that he'll be good. Jets grab Membu from Missouri, weighs 332 pounds. He ran a 4.91 40. Then Walker to Carolina, Will Johnson to New Orleans, and then Ashton Genty teams up with Ben Johnson and goes to the Bears. Why don't you talk about Ashton?
So far, we've seen the Bears follow the blueprint that Ben Johnson had in Detroit, which is get better offensive linemen, and then he decides he wants a running back like he had in Detroit, someone who can really just help Caleb Williams with the game flow, right? Get in situations where it's untenable to pass the ball. We can run the football. If you run the football well in early downs, that means third down becomes short now, which is easier for the quarterback. It just adds an element to the offense of explosiveness, right? You can never have too many explosive players. He's an explosive player. And at 10-2, they're in a spot where, do you go sort of maybe defensive lineman with a lot of upside? You go, there's not really a wide receiver right now. You could go offensive line, I guess, but I think Jones is set at left tackle. You have a right tackle. You have interior 3. Just get the best offensive weapon on the board to help out Caleb Williams.
So I said this as I hadn't seen anyone really mock it, and so I'm glad you're doing it. I said this, I think, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, that I thought if Genty were there, they'd take him. Almost like we know they're not taking a quarterback, and we know that Hunter and Carter are not going to be there. The rest of it we'll see. Like, people have very differing opinions on the offensive linemen. Some people are worried about Will Campbell's arm length. Jeff isn't. I am. You don't care.
Well, Jeff told me not to worry.
But my point is, Genty could go anywhere from who's it?
Raiders at 6.
You're right. Raiders at 6. 2, he could be there at 16 in theory. If he's there at 10, I feel like the Bears just take him. Because the Bears this year, it is more important that, I know this sounds silly, but for the 3 most important people with the franchise, the quarterback, the head coach, and the GM, it is more important the offense is awesome than the team is awesome.
If they had the Bengals season,
it would be
and even 7. If it went 7-10,
if they were just losing games like Chicago this year, if they are losing games 35-31.
Awesome.
It is so much better. Honest to God, it is better than if they are winning games 14-10.
Absolutely.
I know that sounds like that is not true long term, but right now, because Ben Johnson needs it, Ryan Poles needs it, and Caleb definitely needs it. And I think Genty is the absolute real deal. I don't love the imagine a faster Emmitt Smith comps. Like, that's probably unfair to the kid, but I think he's awesome.
Can I ask you a question, Jeff?
Yeah.
Not only do I think all those guys need it, I think Ben Johnson wants it. I think Ben Johnson wants. If I was Ben Johnson, I'm not going to say what Ben Johnson wants. I will say if I was Ben Johnson. If I was Ben Johnson, and I was like, this guy's a genius.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. I'm like, hey, I'm brilliant. I like this brilliant kind of reputation I have. I want to keep that intact. Do you think that weighs into it at all?
I don't think so. I hope not. I hope you just want to be good because you're supposed to be paid to be good. Yeah.
Can I, before you go on, can I ask one other question about the draft?
Yeah.
The number 1 tight end. What's his
Warren.
name?
Fantastic.
Right.
That's an option for them too.
That's what I was going to say. That's the I like Genty.
But it's also a good tight end draft. You can probably find someone in the 2nd or 3rd round that would do just as good of a job. It's also a good running back draft too, by the way. Like, those are good positions this year.
But I think tight end or running back is where they go.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.